Back then, Japan's skies, they were their pride, their fortress, their honor. Fighter pilots trained day and night, mastering loops, dives, chasing enemy shadows in the sky, believing that nothing could ever break through their defenses. They believed the air belonged to them forever. Their families told stories of bravery, of warriors who protected their land, who would fight to the last breath. Young boys dreamed of joining elite squadrons, training at remote airfields surrounded by mountains and sea, under watchful eyes of stern instructors, teaching them discipline, precision, and unwavering loyalty. They learned to fly faster, higher, closer to the enemy. They practiced dogfighting until their arms trembled, until every movement felt instinctual, until their planes became an extension of their bodies. Every maneuver, every dive, every turn was rehearsed until perfection. They believed that with enough skill, they could defeat any enemy. No one, not even their commanders, imagined a bomber could travel thousands of miles, drop its bombs, and disappear into the clouds. Their confidence, their pride, their sense of invincibility felt untouchable. But then the reports began. At first, they came like whispers carried on the wind. Factories bombed, supply lines disrupted, industrial plants reduced to ash. No major force claimed responsibility. No fighter squadrons intercepted the attackers. The enemy was unseen, unstoppable, distant. Commanders scoffed. Impossible, they said. There's no aircraft that can reach our heartland without refueling. It's enemy propaganda. They dismissed reports as exaggerations, as mistakes, as fear taking root. But the whispers became screams. Night after night, explosions tore across the horizon, sending columns of smoke into the sky, screaming through cities like firestorms. Civilian shelters overflowed, families fled, sirens wailed, fires raged unchecked, and panic began to spread. The pilots whispered in disbelief. It can't be! It can't be! Air defenses were scrambled, radar operators strained to trace unknown blips, patrol planes launched only to find nothing but empty skies. Yet devastation followed. Entire industrial zones burned for days, ports lay crippled, and aircraft factories ground to a halt. Then it happened. On a humid night over the East China Sea, a squadron of Japanese fighters scrambled to intercept what they thought was a routine bomber formation. Their leader, Lieutenant Hoshida, a veteran pilot known for his daring attacks, took off with confidence, ready to engage. But as they broke through the clouds, their eyes widened. There they were, A formation of B-29 Superfortresses, massive, gleaming, slicing through the sky like a fleet of metal whales. Their wings spanned wider than any aircraft they had ever faced. Their engines roared with unnatural power, and their calm, disciplined flight was unnerving. The pilots froze. For a moment, the sky seemed to stop. Radio chatter burst into life. Commanders shouted orders, but even seasoned officers hesitated. How could they engage something so far beyond their training, something they had only heard of in rumors? One pilot, trembling, whispered into his headset, This isn't possible." The B-29s appeared as silent predators, unaffected by their presence. Their speed and altitude left Japanese fighters scrambling, unable to close in, unable to fire. The sight froze them. Their fingers gripped the controls. Radios crackled with confusion. Some saw 12. Some saw 20. Others, too many to count. Their training, their tactics, all useless against something so fast, so high, so remote. When Lieutenant Hoshida radioed for an attack, his squadron faltered. Some turned away. Some dove too soon. Some lost contact in the chaos. One by one, planes scattered. Formations crumbled. The B-29s struck at their targets, dropping bombs with calculated precision, and within minutes, entire industrial zones ignited. The next morning, survivors returned shaken, silent, their once proud faces pale, eyes haunted by the memory of machines they could neither stop nor understand. Fear rippled through their ranks. Radar operators saw unnatural patterns. Pilots couldn't lock on to targets. Fuel gauges dropped faster than expected. Some planes flew aimlessly, unable to find their formations. Commanders yelled into headsets, sending frantic orders, only to hear silence, or worse, static. Some muttered dark jokes, calling them ghosts, demons, curses sent from the heavens. But the jokes died quickly, replaced by the dread of helplessness. Entire squadrons failed to regroup. Fighters spun wildly, lost contact, returned with empty cockpits. Inside the command rooms, maps were scattered across tables. Officers leaned forward, sweat pooling at their temples, eyes darting between reports from different sectors. How can they fly so far? Why can't we intercept them? Where are our defenses? Some commanders froze, unable to decide whether to launch or conserve fuel. Others shouted orders, but fear had already taken hold. For the first time, pride gave way to doubt. The B-29 wasn't just a bomber. It was a psychological weapon. It entered the enemy's mind, invading their sense of control, unraveling their confidence. Pilots who once boasted of their skills began avoiding engagements, waiting, second-guessing every move. Even those who flew daring missions returned drained, haunted by the impossibility of the enemy. The sky was no longer their shield. In naval bases along the coast, officers paced nervously, maps covered with red markers tracking the bombers' paths. Military planners scribbled formulas attempting to calculate where they might strike next, but the numbers always fell short. The defense system, built to protect against conventional threats, now seemed obsolete. Even families at home began to panic. Mothers hid their children in shelters. Elders spoke of omens. The fear spread like wildfire, infecting not just military strategy, but everyday life. Ordinary citizens, once proud of their nation's strength, whispered in fear as sirens blared and evacuation orders were shouted across neighborhoods. The Japanese military scrambled to adapt. They built new radar systems, repositioned aircraft closer to expected flight paths, developed higher performance interceptors. But the B-29 always seemed one step ahead. Lines strained, skilled pilots lost to confusion and poor tactics. Defense protocols crumbled under the sheer scale and reach of the enemy. How could a machine fly farther than anyone thought possible? Strike, disappear, and return? The B-29 had become the terror of the Pacific skies. Weeks turned into months, and the Japanese air defense never fully recovered its composure. They scrambled new tactics, repositioned forces, prayed for reinforcements, but deep down, they knew. The sky was no longer theirs alone. The enemy had reached where none had dared to dream. By the end of the war, many Japanese air units had lost the will to fight. The once proud squadrons fragmented, demoralized, afraid. Historians later recorded how morale collapsed, how commanders struggled to keep their pilots motivated, how families at home prayed for their sons' safe return from battles that could never be won. Fear spread faster than fire. The B-29 didn't just destroy cities, it broke hearts. It shattered illusions. It rewrote the rules of warfare. Even in areas untouched by bombs, anxiety gripped the minds of soldiers and civilians alike. The enemy's reach seemed endless. Some pilots were so traumatized they never returned to flight duty. Others spoke of dreams filled with roaring engines and dark skies, of chasing shadows, of watching friends vanish into nothingness. The psychological toll was deeper than any bomb blast, scarring a generation that had once been fearless. War is never just about guns and bombs. It's about the mind, the spirit, the fear that creeps in when strength fails. The Japanese pilots, once fearless, were forced to face something beyond their control, something mechanical, something unstoppable. They trained for glory, but faced despair. And though the skies eventually grew quiet, the echoes of that fear lingered long after the war ended. Whispers. Some never spoke of it again, but the scars remained, etched deep into memory. Today, when we study that time, we see more than battles won or lost, more than planes and weapons. We see shattered dreams, hopes crushed by the cold grip of technology and fear. The B-29 wasn't just a machine. It was a symbol of a war that pushed humanity beyond its limits. So, when you look at the sky now, remember that even the strongest can falter when something unexpected changes everything. This is how the skies of Japan, once ruled by pride, became the stage for fear, uncertainty, and courage lost amidst roaring engines and silent shadows. The lesson, whispered through time, is simple, yet profound. No fortress, no matter how mighty, can stand against the unknown. And sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't one that destroys, but one that shatters the will to fight. The B-29 Superfortress was unlike any other aircraft of its time. With a wingspan of 141 feet, it could carry over 20,000 pounds of bombs, traveling at altitudes above 30,000 feet, where conventional fighters could not reach. Its 4 engines, built for endurance, gave it a range exceeding 3,000 miles, allowing it to cross vast oceans and return safely. Even today, engineers marvel at its design. Radar-guided bomb sights allowed it to strike precisely, even under cover of darkness or heavy clouds, making interception nearly impossible. Pressurized cabins allowed crews to operate comfortably at high altitudes, giving them longer mission times, better coordination, and unmatched efficiency. Every flight, every mission was a testament to engineering genius, combined with ruthless intent. In coastal villages, families huddled in shelters, listening to distant explosions, praying the enemy wouldn't reach them. Mothers whispered to their children, "Stay quiet, don't cry." Elders lit, and that's how fear took hold of the skies. How brave hearts trembled, and how history changed with machines flying farther than anyone imagined. It's easy to forget that behind every story there are real people, real struggles, real dreams lost in the roar of war. If you enjoyed this journey, if it touched your heart, if you want to hear more stories that bring the past alive, then don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button so we can explore more untold tales together. Thank you for listening, for remembering, and for being a part of this journey. Until next time, take care, and let history's echoes never fade away.